Chapter 2. Chief Small is in Worcester at the Fire Chiefs Association of Massachusetts conference, so you have me today. We have two great presentations filled with a wealth of information, so I'm pleased to see everyone here who could attend. First up is Emery Walsh. She is a community relations specialist with Eversource. She's joined by Bob Smith, who is also community relations specialist. Say that 5 times fast. But his primary focus is on the Cape. So we're pleased to have both of them today.
Thanks, Ken. Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Emery Walsh, and I'm one of the community relations specialists at Eversource. Basically, on a daily basis, I focus on the emergency plan, whereas my coworker, Bob Smith, he focuses on all the communities on the Cape and the Vineyard. So when I heard from Kim a few months back asking us to attend the meeting, we're more than happy to come, and I want to let you know we'll always come out if you invite us and want to hear about our plan. She told me that, the presentation she showed me was from 2010, and I was really shocked because a lot has happened in our company and in the world since that time. Back in 2010, I believe, we called our emergency plan MIPO. Then we switched it to SRP, we went from Major Emergency Plan of Operation to our Storm Response Plan. And now we have our Emergency Response Plan. The company focuses on the plan all the time, and as I mentioned, I do it daily, and I don't remember that occurring back in 2010. Along with things changing over the years, everybody has tablets, computers, cell phones, the kids are gaming, and internally we've switched to we're using a lot of technology now. People can get information on outages on their text phones. They can get a voicemail, email. We also have a community portal for the pre-designated municipal officials, and customers can also go online or on their mobile phones to see outage information. So also since 2010, the company has changed names. NSTAR merged with Northeast Utilities to become Eversource. So we now have employees work in Connecticut, New Hampshire, and in Massachusetts. We have 3.6 million customers, and in the state of Massachusetts, we have 1.4 million. So before we start, when we start, I'm going to talk briefly about some of the storms we had last March. I'm sure all of you remember them very clearly. I myself worked 19 straight days, and those were 20-hour days, and probably a lot of you in this room did the same. Those storms were unprecedented, so hopefully Mother Nature calms down a bit. But we name our storms. So last year we had Riley, Quinn, and Skylark. By looking at the maps, you can see when it's a purple, a red, a yellow, those are the communities that really got hit with outages. So you can see that Riley, that impacted the Cape with winds of 90 plus. Quinn was more so impacting the Boston area and Metro West. And then we had Skylar, which once again impacted the Cape. And if anyone has any questions, feel free. So now that we're in 3 different states, we have the ability to get resources from Connecticut and New Hampshire to provide assistance. And they did last year. We also hired contractor crews from Massachusetts, throughout Massachusetts, from Connecticut and New Hampshire. And we had crews coming from all over the country, basically. We had crews come in during the March storms and during the October 2017 windstorm. And with providing mutual aid, we sent people to Florida for Hurricane Irma, and we went to Puerto Rico. So this map here basically shows you everything in blue where we had crews coming from to assist in our restoration efforts. Okay. During a storm, we do our best to respond to public safety calls first. Our global ETRs are published 12 to 24 hours after our damage assessment begins. In town level ETRs, it takes about 24 to 48 hours. Okay, the company's big concern is to address public safety concerns while restoring the largest number of customers in the shortest amount of time. Again, we focus on our public safety calls, our blocked roadways, our critical facilities, transmission lines and substations, and again, it's to restore the largest number of customers. And this shows basically how our electrical infrastructure is. Okay, so when we declare an emergency, the company follows the National Incident Command System. So at Eversource, we have 5 EOCs. Our Incident Command Center is in Dorchester, Mass., and we have EOCs in Springfield, Dorchester, Southborough, Plymouth, Antier, and Yarmouth. We have 5 levels. During level 1 through 3, all employees are activated to a storm assignment. And during level 4, that's when basically it's the Community Relations Department for the most part responds to your calls. And a level 5 is basically a small impact event, and we do that with the regular staffing. Okay, so at Eversource we have what's in our incident command plan, we have the liaison structure. And my responsibility is work with the liaisons and make sure they have all the skills necessary to do their job. So during Blue Sky Days, our liaisons attend training. We go out to the communities to get familiar with your roadways, your critical facilities. We're more than happy to come to your meetings like this. And we also will meet with the public officials to review their critical facilities, their pre-designated portal contacts. We review the definitions of life support and critical facility, our public safety numbers. Public safety officials have designated numbers that get them right into our dispatch center. And we review the life support customer application. Okay, so once an emergency is declared, we have unit leaders, and they are sit beside the Emergency Operations Center manager. Right in the dispatch area, the unit leaders oversee about 3 liaisons in each area, and they work with the EOC manager to prioritize the community priorities. The community liaisons, they're located in the area work centers or the emergency operations centers. For example, Yarmouth is an EOC, Plymouth is an EOC, but New Bedford would be considered an area work center. The liaisons are the single point of contact for the municipal and public safety officials, and they basically work to ensure two-way communication. We also have a community liaison assigned to the MAC, Multi-Agency Collaboration Center in Barnstable. And the liaisons only cover up to 4 communities during a level 1, 2, or 3 storm so that we can ensure to address your calls. Okay. So pre-event planning, over the past couple of years, we're really working harder and harder every day to make sure we get our messages out. If we were to declare an emergency starting tomorrow, I would be sending municipal officials an email, and it's basic. I hide behind it. It's called the Eversource Community Update Mailbox. Basically, I make the initial outreach. I tell them we're, monitoring the storm. Then I'll send them another email and let them know that we're declaring a level, 1, 2, or 3, whatever it may be. Hopefully it's a 4, because that would mean it wouldn't be too bad. And then another email really goes out to them, which provides them with the Eversource liaison's phone information and what time our EOCs will be opened. And our call center, they make outbound phone calls to life support customers and other customers if they're requested to receive information. As far as the life support customers go, we reach out to make them aware of a pending storm so that they can make any necessary preparations. Okay, during the storm, our liaisons, once the EOC is open and operational and our liaisons report for duty, we ask them to reach out to public safety officials to let them know that, we're open, verify the contacts, the telephone information. We'll also work with them with the 2 pre-designated municipal officials. In the town of Falmouth, I have, Chief Small is my EMD, and then the 2 folks in the town that have access to our Eversource community portal, that's Chief Small and Chief Dunn. And we will take priorities from the 2 of them. And when we also ask our liaisons to notify public safety municipal officials of the shift change. And also with regards to life support customers, if a life support customer experiences an outage, we'll be reaching out to public safety to let them know about it. I'm getting ahead of myself. I should pay attention to my slides. Okay, community priorities. Once we're out in the restoration phase, we'll reach out to the chiefs and ask them for their community priorities, and we will work to get those addressed. And they have to meet the definition of a life support customer or a critical facility. So community priority, it's a critical facility or a major municipal roadway that's blocked with electrical infrastructure. A critical facility, these are the hospitals, your emergency operations centers, your shelters, police and fire, telecommunications, and water and sewer pumping stations. Okay, a lot of times following a storm or even during a storm, I get requests for information on life support customers. In order to be on Eversource's life support customer list, you need to provide the company with a letter from a medical doctor stating that the equipment you're on is for life-sustaining purposes. We need to know the type of equipment, we need to know the customer's name, address, telephone number, and an alternate phone number if possible. And we have to have this sent to the company on the doctor's letterhead and updated annually. As far as life support, Eversource maintains a life support customer list, and so that in the event of any planned outages, we can reach out to life support customers to let them know we're going to take an outage. Okay, and under Mass General Law, we're required to reach out to public safety officials during an emergency event if a life support customer loses power and we are unable to reach them by phone. And I know a lot of times when I've made phone calls, the dispatcher that I might speak to, he wonders, why are you calling me? Basically, we want them to do a wellness check. Okay, we also have a group known as the Community Task Force. It basically can consist of either a tree crew, a line crew, or a supervisor. It could be one, it could be all 3. And basically, they are deployed to the hardest hit communities once the initial damage assessments have been completed. So once they're deployed, we work with, the community task force would work with the chiefs to address the community's priorities. They focus on the critical facilities, the blocked roadways, life support customers, basically any high priority jobs that the chiefs have designated. Okay. We also have a community portal. I know the chiefs are probably aware of it. We've recently revamped it just the past couple of months. It contains Eversource and municipal contact information, life support customer information, critical facilities, the community priorities, public safety wires down, and it provides the chiefs with a link to the Eversource Outage Map. As I mentioned, 2 pre-designated officials have access to that. It's the chiefs. We turn the portal on during levels 1, 2, and 3, and it's updated every 10 minutes. Municipal officials need to call Eversource to have calls logged in order for them to appear on the portal. And if you were to log in today, if they were to log in today, basically they'd get a message telling them that Eversource was operating under normal conditions. Okay, so when I reach out to the chiefs to give them information on the portal, or that we're activating the portal, right now I'm sending them out an email, and basically I provide them with a user ID and password. In the next few weeks, I'll be sending them an email asking them to bookmark our new portal page, and they will access it using their town email address. We're no longer taking Gmail or AOL email addresses because they compromise the security. So this is what our new portal screen looks like. Again, it has Eversource contact information, municipal officials, critical facilities, life support, wires down, community priorities. From this map, the chiefs can link to look at our enhanced outage map. This map, the outage map, is available for all residents as well. Anyone can log on to eversource.com, select storms and outages page, and see this outage map. It's an excellent map. We've been listening to what people have requested. And basically, if you were to go on and there was, say you were over a friend's house, your power was out, you could go onto the map, drill down right to your street to see what's going on. It'll provide the outage start time, it'll show how many customers are affected, what caused the outage, an estimated ETR, and also the weather overlay. And the good thing about this map is you can also see it on your cell phones. So basically on the left-hand side you see the 3 states, and on the right-hand side you see how we can drill down to the individual areas. I'll go through these quickly. This is just a shot of the screens that the chiefs will see, the Eversource contacts, that would be your liaison information. On this screen, if I was the liaison, I would know who to contact for assistance in the town. All the life support customers, and basically the life support customers, if they experience a power outage, it's noted on the screen. So the public safety officials would be aware of it, and once their power is restored, it would also appear on the screen. The community priorities, once we receive a town's community priorities, our EOC manager codes them in our outage management system, and once coded, they'll appear on the screen. Critical facilities, again, if there's an outage at one of these facilities, it will be marked on the screen. And all the wires down in a community will appear on this screen, along with any FPS or any public safety calls, 1, 2, or 3. Okay, so our public safety calls. We have 3 different levels. FPS 1 is imminent danger. Excuse me. Somebody could be trapped in a car or in a house fire. FPS 2, basically, utility equipment could be blocking a major roadway. And FPS 3, that could be a wire is on a dead-end street. Public safety officials, again, they have designated phone numbers. We don't provide those to the public. One's imminent danger, that one rings directly in our dispatch center. And the regular duty watch rings in our call center, and that goes to the top of the queue if a public safety official's calling. We never give them out to the public. A number of years ago, these numbers got compromised, so we needed to change everything. Basically, once a public safety official calls, and there's a series of questions that the dispatchers or the call center representative will ask, just so that we can determine our response. Here's my numbers or my information on imminent danger and regular duty watch. Once the public safety officials contact Eversource, log their call, if they want to elevate the job, they're required to, we instruct them to call the community liaison to let them know we need to escalate. Customers, we want all our customers to either report their outage via text, phone, or web. Again, that information is on eversource.com, or they should call 1-800-592-8000 because again, we need to ask them a series of questions when they're reporting the outage. Information is always on our social media page, and again, eversource.com, it really provides a ton of information. Eversource has an electrical hazard program for first responders. I know George Popovici, one of my coworkers, has already come to Falmouth Police and Fire. As far as tree trimming, we have trees, they cause a lot of outages. Back in 2018, 90% of the outages that occurred were caused by trees. Paul Sellis, he's our arborist, and I understand he's a Falmouth resident. And I can tell you that our tree clearances are 8 feet to the side, 15 above, and 10 feet below. Does anyone have any questions?
I got a couple of questions. Does Eversource use a private weather forecasting service to, you said you start making calls to people who are on life support, determining when a storm is coming. Do you use National Weather Service for that, or a private forecaster?
I know we do work with a company. I believe it's a private company. I can double check on that. But I've participated in the calls because we have calls every couple hours and we get weather updates. So I can check and get back to you if you want to.
Well, I was just curious. You don't have to do that.
Sir?
Yeah, if a address has multiple people living in it that are electrically dependent medically, does that change response?
Well, we do our best to address any, life support issues. But I'd have to get your address to see if we have anything coded, huh?
Yeah.
For the building that you live in.
But would it change the response?
Well, basically, I would tell you that you should probably reach out to the chiefs, because they would be the ones who could elevate it to a priority.
Yeah. Thank you for coming.
Oh, thanks.
I have a couple of quick questions. First of all, one is similar to his. One of the things we always struggle with on the community emergency response team coordinator, and we run the shelters. And you mentioned about the protocol for which you watch the weather service and all. At what point is there any trigger? What's the triggering factor that would allow you to, designate or activate the system? How do you manage that traditionally? How far ahead of an event is that?
Well, again, that's a question for the incident commander. I can tell you, with regards to the storm this past weekend, I knew, I think it was Friday, that we were declaring a level 4. But again, it's not, probably differs all the time because, as you know, the forecast changes at the last minute.
And based on severity.
Mm-hmm.
The second part of my question is, it's an excellent situation that you can drill down on, streets in a community for outreach. One of the things that we've always been challenged with is people always want to leave a shelter, but obviously they want to know that they can go home, and obviously it's a greater public safety issue, but you can, on the website apparently, you can drill down to that street that they live on. Now, is that active? You mentioned, I believe I heard you say that is available to the general public, not necessarily, through the public safety side of things.
Yeah, that's correct. And anyone can go on to eversource.com and look at outages.
And is that?
And you can bookmark your house as well. So you could go in today and, put your address in so that when you went in to the map.
That was actually my second half of that question. So in other
I'm getting
words,
familiar with all the technology.
yeah. So that part is actually active, even if the portal isn't active for an event.
Yes, it's great.
And would it actually be functional, say, on a localized or regional basis, like say there was a car accident up on St. Louis Road where the substation is and took out a part of the town,
Mhm.
or that region of town, so that would still be functional for an individual
Oh, yeah, you
at
could
that
go
time.
in and see, you know, well, what's going on? I mean, would have to, obviously, Eversource crews would have to get to the area.
Yeah, yeah.
To, you know, determine what's going on before the information would appear on the map. But yes, it's excellent. Basically, our customers have been asking for this for a number of years.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
it's-
Well, we are challenged with it. We've done everything to call your neighbor or, you know, call your house in the day when people used to have actual answering machines, because they were plugged in. So if your house answered, then you know your house is online. But, so that's,
I know we have a big thing with all the phones now, because everybody either has cell phones or they have the cordless phones that aren't gonna work during a storm.
yeah, we try and remind people of that. So.
Okay, yeah, just, I'm still asking the same question. So the information that goes onto the map, is that information that gets put on the map based upon phone calls that come in? Line crews that identify that? How does the information get populated in the first place?
Well, we always want customers to call to report any outages, because that way we can determine our response. But also, once somebody's out, you know, an employee visits the scene and determines exactly what our resources are and how long it's gonna take us to restore power. Let me just see if we have any outages, and we'll take.
But it's a manual process to populate the information on the map.
Oh, no, our outage management system, you know, it's all the technology behind the scenes feeds the map.
So it can see in a proactive way that there are outages happening at a school, for example, and then populate the map.
Yes.
So essentially, I think
That's
the
what-
question is the grid feeding this map
Correct.
the information
Right.
as opposed to
Yeah,
a
right,
crew
right,
member
yeah.
or a resident?
Our dispatchers, you know, say it was say we had information from the field that there was a pole down in, you know, 5 Main Street. We would automatically put that information into our outage management system, and then we would know that there was a pole down. So if you logged on to look at it, let me see if I can get into the map. Maybe we'll have an outage somewhere. Let's see.
So again, it sounds as though you're saying that a call must come in rather than it being from the grid. Like the grid doesn't, if something goes offline on the grid, it doesn't automatically populate to that area. Someone has to type in.
How intelligent is the grid? That's my question.
Oh, no, I'm sure once we know there's an outage, the information appears. I'll double check that,
Yeah, that'd be good
but I
to
believe that the information automatically appears if there's an outage, but can you just write that down
Yep,
for me?
got it.
Check. Let me see if I can get into it.
It's better. It's better.
Let me do the outside map. One second. It's gonna only take a minute. Our outage is in storm page.
Oh, yeah, you can do it. On Eversource. Yeah, and then you go to outages, and then you, and also have. Oh, actually, that's great. Yeah. Okay. I usually just do. And then, I do
You know, this is on my
that it's
slide
there.
presentation, so it's
It was
not.
like, go there.
We'll find that information out and let everyone know. So, everyone heard the website though, eversource.com, then you can go to outages.
Emery, do we have an app?
Let me see if, on our phones, no. I understand we don't have an app, you just go in.
I was just looking, I couldn't find one.
Yeah, no, just if you type, Eversource, or Google Eversource,
Okay.
and then see if you can get it to appear. Maybe if I close my presentation, I did close it, huh? Let's see.
And you'll notice on the table also, I put some copies of the email that Eversource sends out to the emergency managers in the community that lets them know, like for the wind event that we just had over the last couple of days. A lot of pertinent information comes to us through that email as well. You know, what areas are being harder hit, what we should be doing, things that are coming down the pike as well. So the communication piece, as Emery was saying, a lot of changes since 2010. That's one of the major changes that has been very beneficial to emergency managers. And it's not just one,
So that's
you know,
probably
we
a
were
call
getting
or
them every
something.
couple of hours. You know, here's the update, so it sort of dovetails with what MEMA is putting out usually.
There's an outage, I'm just looking, this is the outage map, you have it there. I'm just clicking on, I have West Roxbury bookmarked, 'cause that's where I live. And basically, right now, there's an outage with 35 customers that started at 1:30, but right now, we don't know what the cause was, so.
So where are you seeing where it started?
Here.
I see on the right-hand side,
Start.
outage information.
It's right,
Start time 1:30.
I see it, okay.
yeah. And then you can zoom, check the status, you know, and you can bookmark outages as well, addresses.
But, so when that is resolved,
Mhm.
how is that information, the people who resolved it tell you that it's been resolved? It doesn't magically sort of update the map.
Once the power is restored in the field or repairs are made, the field personnel would contact the dispatch center
Okay,
to let them
that's it,
know
yeah,
that
that's
the
all.
power's been
Yeah,
restored.
that's fine.
That is really good.
You got it, you
Oh, yeah,
email?
you can actually get it right down. There is one up by the canal. I got 5 people. But yeah, it's, this is
Yeah, it's very user-friendly.
Now, I noticed there's different icons. Is that based maybe on
On
either
the, size
severity or
of the
size of
outage.
it? Is that what
Yeah,
that
we
is?
have, hold on, let me, I think it's greens, of course I clicked out of it.
Yeah, it looks like the bigger they get with a number in it, maybe it's the number of people out.
It, blue icons 1 to 50 customers, greens 51 to 250, and so on. If you see red, it's greater than 5,000, so.
Has a green one out in Springfield.
Mhm.
Must be a result of the storm.
It's really cool.
Just FYI, if corporate doesn't have enough things to do, National Grid already does have an app, and you can report directly there for power outages and gas outages.
I know, the company looked at the map, or the system that National Grid has, and they're waiting till the company that developed it makes some more changes to it. Because, I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I know it didn't do everything that we wanted. And during the March storms last year, the grid still had to input information manually.
We hear a lot in the news about cyber attacks on the electrical grid. Would your response to that kind of thing be similar to a response to a storm?
Yes, I would say definitely so. I mean, I'm not, I don't know everything about what goes on, but I'm certainly sure that we would activate the incident management team. I know, 10 years ago, I didn't have, maybe not 10, but years ago, I didn't have an ID to get into the company. Now I can't go through a door without having my ID in my hand.
Anne-Marie, you showed a map of the different states that you relied on for mutual aid to assist in the past storms, particularly last year. Can you speak a little bit about the pre-staging that Eversource does in bringing a lot of their assets to certain areas, like perhaps Barnstable County, when they know a storm is coming?
Oh, okay, well, basically, when we know a storm's coming and we're gonna have mutual aid, we work with the local hotels to get hotel rooms for our crews and for our contractor crews. We coordinate food for the crews. Let me think, a place where we can stage our crews, because, you know, we have so many trucks coming in. Extra equipment comes down, you know, again, it all depends on the storm, but there's a lot involved.
The merger helps because you now have employees that are trained, the same as our Massachusetts folks, that can get here quickly. When it really hits the fan like last March, you know, I had a crew staying in a hotel with me in Hyannis. It was from Louisiana. They'd never seen snow before. So we'll take whatever help we could get at that stage, but it's not the same as if we call Public Service New Hampshire, and they're all been trained exactly as we have in Massachusetts. So that's one advantage since the merger.
I think it's just comforting to hear, nice to know that when we're on our 48-hour out phone calls with the Barnstable County Regional Emergency Planning, and Eversource's liaison comes on and says, you know, we have crews already staged in Plymouth, we have crews already staged in Yarmouth, we have crews already staged, you know, down Cape, and we have the equipment and we have the lines already in place. So there's some pre-planning, I guess, that I'd like to just make an awareness that there is a lot of pre-planning on Eversource's part as well, to ensure that those areas that they know will be hit have some things in place, and that these people are not traveling through the storm to get here, delaying the process. It's pretty much boots on the ground as soon as they possibly can.
Yeah, it is, and I do those calls now on Mac, and that call, the first one's at 10 a.m., and our last adjustments are made at a 9 a.m. meeting, so I'm always waiting for that meeting to get out so I can have the exact number of crews that are going to be in Falmouth, you know, or in, you know, Orleans, because they'll make the changes up until pretty much the last point is the crews that work during the night come in and give us more information as well.
Great. Any other questions? Good. Super. Thank you both. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. Hey, I need that cord. Okay. Trip over it. Super. Quick transition.
That's what Timmy's sitting over there.
So Bob Shea, our GIS coordinator for the town of Falmouth, is going to explain a little bit about what community rating system is and how that affects our community.
Hi, most of you folks in here know me, but like Kim said, I'm the GIS coordinator, but I'm also the co-CRS coordinator, along with Jen McKay, our conservation administrator. Now, what is the community rating system? It's a piece of the National Flood Insurance Program that offers discounts in exchange for things that the town is already doing to reduce impacts of flood. It helps to alleviate the costs, especially with the changes in the maps. CRS has been started in 1994, but with the change in the 2014 maps, it really became popular on the Cape. As you'll see later, I'll show you some slides of what the Cape is up to now. It incentivizes resilience and better floodplain management. As you can see on the map, quite a bit of the Cape, all that dark stuff, is all flood hazard area. Now, what happens with the CRS is you gather points by doing particular activities. And this is a list of some of them. Public information. When we have our
annual fire prevention thing in the fall. We get points for that, for attending that, and we also have pamphlets and making these available to the public. These are right outside my office at Town Hall. You get points for certain things like that. Mapping and regulations. I'm reading flood maps. I get calls all the time from people and sometimes banks wanting to know if a certain property is in the flood zone and what the ramifications of that are. Mapping and regulations. This is where we get a lot of points. Using the GIS, since the town owns so much land, you get to take the square footage of the special flood hazard area, all the flood zones, and then you take how much of property of the towns is in there, and also private conservation areas like salt pond sanctuaries, things like that. You take all that area, flip it out to the special flood hazard area, and then you reduce your gain points, and you reduce the size of the floodplain actually by taking all that property out of it, because then they don't have to worry about holding any policies in that area. And then flood damage reduction, acquisition, we know we're not gonna buy any property on the waterfront around here anymore, so we're not gonna do that. Relocation is when a property, like you see on the bluffs out of Cape, they'll move a property backwards outside the mitigation. Is one type of mitigation is elevating structures to get them out of the flood hazard area, and warning and response. Emergency management credit we get for a couple of years ago. Remember, we went through the hazard mitigation planning, where we created a hazard mitigation plan for the town, which we had to do before we sent a letter of interest to FEMA to join the CRS. You can take classes. I've taken a bunch of classes. We do not have a certified floodplain manager. Storm ready designation. I don't think we're storm ready. That is a program through the National Weather Service. But all these things you get points for. Flood warning and response program. One of the new things the town has done in the past year or two is we've added a new committee, the Coastal Resilience Action Committee, which is working on a project right now we'll get to in a minute. But we might be able to get points just for having that committee in place, and they're pretty tough on what they give points for. They don't give points for just having something on a piece of paper. You have to prove it. But I'm sure we'll get some points, as we'll talk about in a minute. Public outreach. Now, like I said, public outreach, that we have our fair in the fall. This might be considered public outreach, I'm not sure. And this is when there's no active events during immediate. Now, actually, we don't talk about it as a flood, but Kim and FCTV, every time there's a storm, there's a warning sent out, and so actually we are doing public outreach in that manner. We might just have to add the word flood to as well to get credit for it. And post-event brochures. I wasn't here in 1991 when Bob hit, but I'm sure if it happens again, you know, they'll be probably implementing. You'll have to implement something like that just for people, so they won't go into houses, you know, if it's condemned or not condemned, and so forth. Now this is back to the flood warning and response program we were talking about. It's all the same things we were just talking about, where we might have to add the word flood in some of our warnings. because we're not gonna get a flood unless we have a storm. Or an event, a hurricane, northeast, winter coastal storm. And then the flood inundation mapping, I'll show you that in a minute. But critical facilities planning, we've just, to crack through the Community Resilience Action Committee, we got a grant to map out and create a risk portfolio for all our buildings in the special flood hazard zone. Not just our buildings, our roads, any infrastructure, even our parking lots, and the schools. And right now, they're in the process of creating this document, which is gonna have interactive GIS in it too, and it's gonna look at what the risk is, social, economic, environmental, at all our critical facilities. And it's gonna look out at 2030 and 2070, based on sea level rise. So that'll be an interesting thing, which will be coming out later this year. We're in the process of doing that right now. And the annual exercise, I think they're talking about a tabletop exercise or something like that. Flood inundation forecast maps. Storm tide pathway studies. I think what we're doing is a similar storm pathway studies, but I think ours goes a little further than that. Here's a map of Falmouth showing all of our, I don't think this is working here. All of our floodplains. The red is the velocity zone, the yellow is the A zone. Falmouth has a lot of properties in the flood zone. Here's our storm surge map. You can see over to the eastern portion, it's categorized by green is category 1, yellow is category 2, orange is category 3, and red is category 4. So according to the storm surge model, over on the eastern side, we'll be pushing water up into Mashpee and the Childs and Quashnet rivers. Now in Barnstable County, these are the current towns that have, Mashpee just finished last year, Sandwich. Bourne is going through it right now. Actually, the person who's doing Bourne is going to be doing ours, but Boston is in the queue ahead of us, so we have to wait for, after she finishes Bourne and Boston. So we could be waiting. She's gonna come down in June to talk to the stakeholders, the building commissioner, and I'll probably have community resiliency, someone from that group, and DPW. She's gonna tell us exactly what she wants to see, so when we do have when she's ready to do us, we'll be all ready. They look at 5 years permits in the special flood hazard zone. They go back, they make you go back 5 years, and they look at all the permits to make sure that we're keeping up with the minimum standards. So Bourne is getting done right now, and Falmouth is Barnstable waiting in the queue. Now these are old slides, but you can see some of the savings that some of the towns are already getting. Now, some of these are significant, but when we get to Falmouth, you can see this on the slide. These are 2015 numbers. You can see the policies in force. We have 2,500 policies in force. Nobody else even comes close to that. We have over $4 million in premiums written for Falmouth. And with a 10% savings, that would be over $400,000 going back to policyholders to be spent on other things. And I'm sure this is 2015, so 4 years later, that's probably up quite a bit. Here we have, let's see if I can get this to work here. Everything I've talked about today. You can find, but if you go to the town website, go to the search and put in flood information, and it'll bring you to a page. I'm not good with it. I'm a mouse person.
Yeah.
But you go to this flood information page, which is on the GIS page as well. And it has links to Falmouth Emergency Preparedness, the Cape Cod. These are all agencies that deal with flooding. CRS Community Rating System gives more information on that. It'll give you, we have a interactive town map, so you can click on that. Go right in here, search by address. We'll put in Town Hall Square. Brings us right to Town Hall and shows us that we are indeed in the flood zone. Also on this page, so any resident could do that just to check to see if they're in there. Also on this page is floodsmart.gov, which is a good resource. But down the bottom, we have all the paper maps for download. If somebody wants to download the original paper map from FEMA, they're all right there, and I've renamed them from the codes to, as you can see, they're named by location. And there's also information about reducing flood and how to do that coastal construction. These are all PDF manuals from the government on flooding. And that's it. My name is Bob Shea. I can be reached at bob.shea@falmouthma.gov. Sorry, we just changed our email, or call at 495-7406 to answer any questions. And I want to thank Sea Grant and the County of Barnstable for some of these slides. And any questions?
So, Bob, in order for residents to take advantage of those savings once this is all completed,
Yes.
do they need to know that the town has a new rating, or is that industry?
They do not need to know.
Super.
Once we're accepted into the program, it'll automatically take 10% off your bill, and it'll be a credit on that. Doesn't take it off of the fees, just takes it off of the premium.
Of your flood insurance.
Right.
Through your insurance company.
Right, and like I said, the GIS mapping alone will give us over 5%. So we're looking at between 10 and 15%. Hopefully, I'm shooting 15
Yeah, that'd
to
be
try and
great.
get the most out of it. Because nobody else right now gets more than 15. There's one town in California that's been doing this since the 1990s that gets like 50% off. but they have, it's a small town, and they just don't let anything happen in the flood zone, basically.
They're up in the mountains.
They've closed the floodplain down for construction.
You're in a desert.
Bob, realistically then, with the application process, I'm familiar with some of it that's been going on. What do you estimate, obviously, if we're in line after Boston for CRS, and then,
Yeah.
so GIS might be before that, right? I mean,
Well, I've already done it.
Yeah.
They'll probably make me do it over again.
yeah.
But realistically, now that I talked to Molly Kaput, is this FEMA specialist that is gonna work in Falmouth. Like I said, she's still working on Bourne, she's got Boston to do, and then it'll be us. We put in our letter of interest last August. It's supposed to be within 1 year, but with the way the holdups and the government shutdown and all the other things, it'll probably be in the fall. And once you've been approved, you can only submit in May and November. So we're shooting for next May to submit, I'm hoping, and then it takes a year from that. Because the federal government works so fast, as you know. So I'm shooting at hopefully for May of 2021. Hopefully we'll have discounts for the policyholders in Falmouth. As you saw, we have more policies and more than anybody, way more. Well, we have all the peninsulas, and every house along those peninsulas is, unless you own it right out, you have to have a policy provided by the banks now. Any other questions?
Super. Thanks for your hard work, Bob.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. So, just a couple things, if you hadn't had an opportunity when you checked in to sign in, please do so. Also, take a peek at some of the things that we have on the table. There are a few ICS courses coming up, training through MEMA, that you can sign up for, and also there's a little bit of information about MEMA's new director after the retirement of Kurt Schwartz. So learn a little bit more about the director, because I'm sure we'll be dealing with the director in the years to come. Other than that, we're all set, and I appreciate you being here. Thanks.
Thank you.